All right. We are live here, and I am excited to have this conversation publicly with everybody because I have a special guest today. My guest today is known especially for her comic book and TV journalism. She's written for the likes of Newsarama, the DC Universe, IGN, Fandom, and TV Guide, as well as her produced content for her YouTube channel called Comic Uno. And she's the writer of comics, including They Call Her the Dancer and Like Father, Like Daughter, the latest issue of which is currently funding and actually just got funded on Kickstarter today. So welcome to Comics Launch, Kat Calamia. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Love everything you do. And yeah, it's cool just to talk Kickstarter with like-minded people and who know the hustle for sure of Kickstarter.
Absolutely, and it is a hustle, but let's just begin right there. For those of the folks that listen to this and check it out, and maybe haven't come across your series Like Father, Like Daughter, what's sort of the high concept of it, and talk a little bit about how long you've been working on this project.
Yeah, so elevator pitch, log line. It's about a high school girl. Father left her, become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her. And then she inherits his abilities. We have some twists and turns that happen within the series. So we're up to issue 7. So I could spoil this because this happened in issue 5. This whole entire time you think that the dad's the villain, and we actually learn it's her mom who works for the KGB and was kind of behind all of this. So we're unraveling that as we get to the end of our arc. And as I kind of stated in the Kickstarter, our next issue that we're building up to changes this book forever. There's 2 pretty big twists in the issue, and this series it wouldn't be the same. So definitely catch up from here so you can get to that point. But how this started, I actually started working on this 5 years ago. When I was in college, I wrote a screenplay, and I decided I want to make it a comic. I love comics. I've loved comics all my life. I, at that time, was reviewing comics for about 5 years. Now I've been doing it for about 10 years. And I'm so happy I've made it a comic. And I feel like this has become, well, obviously my baby, but it also is one of those series that I just want it to keep going, and it's be an ongoing. So that's kind of how it all started. And now finally we're kind of at a point where we can release these issues. I mean, plan would be great if we could do it 4 times a year, but at least 3 times a year. We're definitely pushing to release them more often.
Absolutely. Now, was serializing this series on Kickstarter always the goal? I mean, you've been working on this for a while. When did the idea that, hey, you know what, Kickstarter can really help us make this happen? When did that come to play?
That was definitely the first time we made issue 1. Kickstarter was not as it is now. It was a bit not smaller, but now it's every year it's gotten bigger.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I really want to use Kickstarter. And we did that for issue 1, and we did for issue 2, and then we had enough money from those 2 issues to just self-fund issue 3, what we did. And then after that, I kind of realized it's not just about funding; it really is about growing your audience. And then I'm like, even if we do have the funding for the previous issue, you can still use Kickstarter as a marketing tool as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think my idea of Kickstarter has changed a lot over the years and why I use it, but I still continue to use Kickstarter, and I don't see that that changing. I have a series right now, as you mentioned, They Call Her a Dancer, which I've been debating to use for Kickstarter, but actually right now I'm trying to get that through pitching and through the direct market. So not saying all my comics are Kickstarter books, but I think Like Father, Like Daughter really lives on Kickstarter, and
Yeah.
it seems like people have been enjoying it. So I like the format of Like Father, Like Daughter there, and I don't plan on pitching this around. Again, there's other titles I would, but this is, I was part of another company actually for this book for about 5 issues, and then I decided to self-publish it completely myself to get complete control of it. And I've been very happy with it, even though I love the company I worked with. It just visually and for my creative vision, it made more sense to go on my own. And I don't think I would want to be partnered up with this book for another company, but that doesn't mean other comics you can't do that with. There's other avenues you should reach out towards for your career. Kickstarter is just one platform to do that.
And so is Like Father, Like Daughter, is that the first comic you've ever made?
Yeah, like Follow My Daughter was my first. The Dancer was my second. Others in the works as well coming along.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely nice to be able to have a certain level of control to see your vision throughout, and sometimes it can be difficult when to manage multiple visions for what a series is. It's interesting that you sort of said that you yourself sort of went through the process of well, we'll use Kickstarter for funding, and then maybe we'll self-fund it because those have done well. But then coming back to Kickstarter, I had someone comment on one of my posts today that was kind of like the basics of, hey, why would I bother with Kickstarter? I can fund it myself and just sell it. And my response is, okay, great, but why would you sort of ignore the fact that there's over $22 million of funding has been raised for largely for indie comic creators and indie comic projects on Kickstarter just this year. It's a marketplace. There are plenty of backers that do most of their comic shopping, spend most of their comic budget now on Kickstarter. Now that's not everybody. It won't cover the whole market, but it's sort of like to snub your face at the Kickstarter market as an independent creator seems a little bit silly. But that sort of feeling has evolved over the years for sure.
Yeah, and then yeah, why throw money away, right? I mean, it's great if you can self-publish it. I think that's awesome, but you're throwing money away, yes, but then you, like you said, you're kind of throwing potential readers away who
Yeah.
really only go to Kickstarter to read their books. They might not find your website and be like, "Oh man, I really like that title." They probably found you because of the Kickstarter algorithm. So why ruin that? And you still can sell yourself. You're doing both of it. So you're doing Kickstarter. That doesn't stop you from the ventures you're gonna take that book later.
Absolutely. And, there is something that just goes into a launch. It forces you to get a little bit outside of your comfort zone, be more promotional than most creators are comfortable with. But what that also means is you get in front of a whole lot more eyeballs than you would if you put your book for sale on your own online shop, or even, have it be one of the 400 books that are coming out every month in the direct market, and it can just sort of be separate from that. There is something that you know that's very powerful about treating your book release like the big event that it is, and how hard it is to bring one of these issues to life. um, I think a lot of our issues, they deserve the kind of launch and the kind of just going for it that a Kickstarter campaign will entail.
Yeah, especially short amount of time. You have maybe 30 days, maybe less days. It makes people want to back it. And then, yeah, you have the special occasion of you having to keep promoting the Kickstarter on social media. But then you have another chance when it's on your online store or when you have another opportunity to promote it. So there's just so many other times you can promote it then. But yeah,
Yeah.
Kickstarter should be your main place. And why do you think we're seeing these bigger creators? Like literally, if you look at Kickstarter now, there's like 3 to 4 mainstream creators, great mainstream creators. Ed Breeson just released a Kickstarter today. So there's also, you see the mainstream creators doing it for a reason as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in addition to just the crazy year that 2020 has been, Kickstarter's been one of the platforms that, at least in the comics category, I know some of the other categories, obviously the film
Yeah.
category took a real wallop because all sets were shut down. But in the comics category, especially after having an initial dip, we've hit all-time highs in terms of numbers of projects funding there, and I don't think that genie is going to get put back in the bottle anytime soon, especially once creators that maybe didn't do Kickstarter because they thought, well, I don't have to do Kickstarter. It's not about having to do. It's just about it's about, hey, what makes sense? Where can you connect with your fans? Where are readers actually spending money, and where can you just use it to create something that you might have a tough time getting a yes from multiple decision makers. I think it's smart, and it's going to result in a lot of really cool projects. So one of the things that we were talking about just before we went live here was Kickstarter goal setting, and that you would just hit your Kickstarter funding goal, but obviously you have 21 days to go. What's your approach and process for setting your Kickstarter funding goal? I know a lot of creators, they'll vary in terms of what they try to put that goal towards, and how what their chemistry for deciding what that goal should be. I'm just curious what your approach is, having been a Kickstarter veteran.
Luckily, because I've had pretty much the same creative team and know what my budget is for everything, I've been able to set a goal towards what I know is going to cost for shipping and coloring and printing. So the 5,000 goal is actually the goal I needed to fund this book. So after that, it really is just gravy, which is important because, like, I know I think Kickstarter has changed in some regards where it's just like, well, all we need is to get funded. And for some people, it is just to get funded and make profit later. But I think Kickstarter is also a good avenue to make your book better. If you have a chance to get more money to do other stuff for your book or future issues, that's great. But B, you can also make a profit. So I know that's sometimes like taboo to say
Yeah.
with Kickstarter, but yeah, make a profit. I think
Yeah,
that's also a
make a
goal.
profit. You can use that to do more books, or to treat yourself for doing something good. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think profit should be a dirty word. And obviously, the at the bare minimum, you want to recoup you want to recoup what's going to actually cost you to deliver on the promises of your rewards. That's and so the question, like getting that goal set and hitting it, but then sometimes we do that, and now you've got 21 days to go on the clock, and so you've hit your funding goal. Looking for the gravy. What are some of the things that you do to sort of after funded but haven't yet, but still a lot of time on the clock? What are some strategies or things that you do to sort of at least keep the momentum going?
So many strategies. I think that's like the difference between, I guess, a veteran Kickstarter, someone who's been doing Kickstarter for a while, or someone who just started.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of times people put all their promotional efforts into that first week because they're like, oh man, we got to make this big. Which, yes, the first 48 hours is really important for a Kickstarter, which is why most of us do early bird specials. So that way, Kickstarter backers back it up really easily, or, quicker. But yeah, you have to spread yourself out. And I try to make every day a new event, either by doing many podcasts, but others is just like reaching out to friends and people in the comic book industry, and slowly reaching out to them and say, hey, can you, help share this? And that's done really well for me. Others is like adding, maybe I could say here, what I'm going to end up doing is adding a foil cover for the comic, and we're going to make it exclusive to Kickstarter. So we're going to have some for add-ons because now they finally had that feature. And we're going to have like about 10 issues for the actual tier of that. So making it special, like if you back up this Kickstarter, you literally can't get this anywhere else. So doing that within a week. We have Black Friday coming up. So do a Black Friday sale. I have other avenues for, honestly, I actually haven't really reached out to my old backers because I've been waiting for that. Like I've given an update and all that, but to like directly message some old backers, I actually haven't done that yet because I wanted to wait until we got further into the campaign when you kind of sometimes hit that plateau area. So I think the big thing is like actually having ideas and new things every week or every couple of days. That way it's not you just saying, I have a Kickstarter. It's like, no, you want to get people excited. We have stretch goals, of course, too. That's kind of what's built into Kickstarter. I'm very excited to showcase those stretch goals. I also made backer goals. So that's something different for this, is that I did like every 50 backers, you get a free digital indie comic, which thankfully there's been a lot of creators that gave us indie comics. So if we reach 200 backers, you get another indie comic. There's opportunity to get like 22 indie comics for $1 in this campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to make everything feel a little special. And you have to have a battle plan for every week. It's not just for the first week. You have to make it feel special every day.
Absolutely. If we have some folks watching us live, and so hi to everyone there. If you have questions about serializing a superhero comic on Kickstarter, or questions for Kat, or just general Kickstarter questions, please feel free to toss them in the chat, and we'll try to ask them and get them answered while we're live. I want to talk a little bit about the comics journalism and comic writing side of things. How did you sort of get into that, and what made you want to do that, apart from creating the comics, but whether it be reviews or writing about comics? What sort of started that for you?
So in high school, believe it or not, I'm 26 now. So in high school, I started a YouTube channel where I was like, I want to talk about comics, and I did, and that kind of became bigger than I expected. And I was just doing it because me and my friend wanted to talk about comics together. And then I started getting some eyes on it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, it'd be interesting to do more YouTube stuff, and I still do, and I utilize that as like a marketing tool and to showcase your brand, but also just like talk about comics and talk
Yeah.
about what I love. So I started out with YouTube, and then in college, I had a communications degree, and I took a journalism class. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And at the time, they didn't have a major for it, so I got a minor in journalism. And I graduated college, and I think everyone kind of looks to the abyss and be like, "Oh my God, what do I do with this communications degree?" I had experience with journalism, so I and in comics. So I actually contacted Newsarama and said, "Hey, you looking for anybody?" And they said, yeah, we do reviews. And I see you do reviews. Do you want to do that? I'm like, cool. And I did that for a couple of months. And then Comic-Con came. I was doing Comic-Con for my YouTube channel. And they saw that I was going to be there and like, hey, do you want to do some coverage for us? And I was like, yeah, sure. And that kind of gave me more of the avenue to do more hard hitting journalism for Newsarama, which is my main source of having a job is Newsarama. And then you meet people, you get to freelance for other stuff. IGN, I had a friend say you should apply to this, and I did, and I was able to get that job. And then the comic section kind of dwindled. That's the only reason I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
DC Universe, I had a friend, and I was like, hey, is anyone hiring right now? I was like, sure, pitch them, and I did, and I was able to get a job there. So I mean, that's the most. I think that's for anything. It's for comic book writing as well. It's just kind of who you know, but don't think about it that way. Don't think I have to make friends with this person because I'm networking. You just kind of become friends with people, and you want to help each other out. And I see that with writing a lot too. I have a degree in TV writing, a master's in that, and that was kind of like the number one rule we learned is that the networking is not oh, you have to network. It's like you become friends with people because you love writing, and then you'll end up helping each other out, and that's how you grow within the industry. That's how you kind of go up the ladders, by helping everybody. So in that regard, I think it's a very kind industry, and I've seen that with this Kickstarter as well. Everyone just kind of wants to help each other out, and through the Kickstarter platform, and then also even just the bigger mainstream indie writers wants to help creators out as well. So I think that's been pretty cool. I know I've kind of lost the answer or lost the question there, but yeah, journalism it was a ride I didn't expect to take, and I love that. Could be my day job. I get to talk about comics as my day job, as I'm also trying to break into the industry and write comics. So
Yeah.
it's a really fun kind of, I guess, double life I'm living.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, as someone that creates, but also talks about the things that you like and don't like, how has that been able, or like has that affected your own process or your own ability to work? Because like I know there are some like reviewers and out there that had no problem sort of critiquing other work, and then they start making their own thing, and they're like, wait a minute, maybe I was a little too hard on X, Y, or Z creator. But I'm just curious how you get that balance right.
Um, Luckily, I've been able to find it. I think with my critiques, like I try not to be negative, but that doesn't mean I won't give a 2-star review or a 1.5-star review. It
Yeah.
means that I'm not just like, well, this sucks and that's it. Like I definitely see critics do that, and they don't really have a reasoning. I say this is the reason why subjectively I didn't enjoy this part. Or if I get really excited about a book and I really enjoyed something about a book, I'll be like, this is the reason why I love this book. So I've been able to find the balance. And when I do meet up with creators and they know my work, they're like, I really like your reviews because you you actually critique. You're not negative for the sake of being negative. Like, I get the points. You're just giving up points, you know, you're just saying
Yeah.
this is why maybe I wasn't interested in this. Or I never say, well, you have to work on this, because who am I to say that? You don't have to work on anything. I might not like that part, but someone else might love that part. You know, writing is so subjective. And how it affects me, it's interesting. When I'm working on a crossover book with one of my friends for upcoming Kickstarter, for The Haunting, and after we wrote it, I kind of said, okay, I'm going to put my critic hat on now. Do you want to hear my thoughts if I was a critic, how I would review this?
Mm.
And he's like, sure. And I was able to like pinpoint like what I would say to the comic and say, well, this is the reason I would give this or a 5-star thing, or I wouldn't give it a 5-star thing. So I'm able to kind of like trade hats and say, okay, as a writer, I understood why I did that, because you need to get to point A to point B. But me as a reader, I wouldn't have liked that.
Mm.
And then you fix it. And I actually think it's actually been very helpful as a writer, to kind of understand to be in the shoe of an audience, but also the shoe of a critic, and kind of try to figure out all different spectrums.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really important skill to have. A lot of times you'll talk to creators about their baby, and something might be confusing, or something that might not work for you. And then they'll go on a long-winded thing about how, well, in issue 5, that's going to get revealed and all this other stuff. And it's like, but it's not on the page. And we can only judge you. We can't judge you on the story in your head. We can only judge you on the story that's on what's on the page, and you will be judged based on the stories that are on the page. So I think that is a good hat to be able to slip on. And I do recommend, I mean, you know, most, well, maybe not most, but so many of the best writers out there also spent time reviewing comics or writing about the medium of comics, in some cases for years. And it is a good, putting on your critical hat will sharpen your own ability to create.
100%.
So a question came in from Facebook, and so we'll tackle this, and I'll get your feedback on it. All right, here's the question: if a book is completed and ready to sell, would using Kickstarter with a very small goal, more as a marketing and sale tool than a funding tool, still be embraced by fans, or is it best to hide the fact that the book is completed and say that it needs the help of Kickstarter and backers to be completed to avoid the, well, we'll buy it later if it's already done effect from buyers? What's your take on that?
I think that you should actually be upfront about that it's done, because people are going to get excited that they're going to get the book early. Because I think with Kickstarter, a lot of times, like, oh, the book's not done. It might take a year for this to finish, or it might take a few months. If it's done and they're going to get it delivered in a couple of weeks, that's your selling point. Say, this thing is done. After this Kickstarter is over, I'm shipping books. That's the marketing tool I would say to use. Don't say, well, I don't need the funding, because that's not good marketing. But you could kind of put a spin on it and be like, well, yes, I did self-fund it, but I'm trying to recoup costs, and I will get the book to you very quickly, and you have it in the can, which is awesome.
Yeah, rather than being a weakness, that's a big asset. What you're doing by completing the book on your own, even before you launch the Kickstarter, is you're putting a tremendous amount of skin in the game, showing how committed you are to this book. And if you're going to Kickstarter, all you can just position it as, hey, we've removed all the risk from you. We're raising funds on Kickstarter either to help with printing or to fund the distribution and help get it into as many hands as possible. You can all and that's all you need to do. The other thing that I'll also just say and put it bluntly, like, I mean, one thing that I've definitely know to be true is that your funding needs really don't matter to backers that much. Like the fact that you like what the amount of money you need, your funding, your own personal need really doesn't matter to backers. It's that's not really the calculus that backers go into. Rather, it's, do I want to see this book out in the world? Do I want to see this project? Do I want this project to exist? Do I want this creator to succeed? Like, and as a result, like, the amount of funding that you need, is not directly correlated to how much you raise. Rather, it's projects that look like no matter what, they're going to happen. Those creators are committed to making these things happen. they end up being the ones that tend to raise the most funding and have the easiest time succeeding. And so when you have 100% of your project done and created, that shows that you're committed to it. You have a lot more stuff that you can show off on the Kickstarter page, lowers the risk for backers to back and not have to wait for it. So I say go for it. And again, yeah, use it. Use Kickstarter as a launch mechanism, a marketplace, a ability to get in front of an active number of creators and to connect directly with fans, and also to build the asset that is a Kickstarter account, which you can then use for other projects. It really can't be understated how powerful your Kickstarter account is. And I know you're someone that actually had to do what I've had to do with it in a couple of instances is you start launching and serializing on one account with another company, and then you broke away. Yeah. And so you had to restart and build your sort of your account from the ground up under your own name. But what that does is every time you launch a future Kickstarter, they notify all your backers for you that have backed you in the past. And you'll find that your past backers often are, the most likely people to back your next projects. And so the sooner you can build up an account and connection with backers, the easier it's going to be for future projects to fund.
I agree 100%. And also just showing how much you back and how much you support. I see, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of times, like, if people haven't backed up like a lot of projects or at least a few projects, they might not even support your project. Yeah. So make sure to like be active within the community as well.
And that is one of the special things. It's one of the reasons why comics will soon have the highest success rate of any category on Kickstarter. Right now it's number 2. But we're on the trajectory to be number 1. And in 2020, comics was the highest success rate category already. It's because we're actually a community. We support each other's stuff. My feed is full of creators, or my inbox is full of creators that I follow on Kickstarter, and every day I'm seeing what people in my feed are backing, and a lot of times, they're backing other creators on Kickstarter, and so doing that is it's a part of being a part of the community. So this is a good question, and especially someone for you. I mean, you obviously know mainstream comics. You're reviewing comics every week. You've got a pull list. You are used to the monthly comic schedule that Marvel and DC have tended to use. But we all know that indie comics, it's very, very hard to put out a monthly independent comic book series, and Kickstarter does not especially work well on the monthly model. So Jose Laurie asks, is it hard keeping up momentum between each of your releases, and how have you approached that, and what have you found?
I think I'm definitely trying to still find the groove with that, because I would say Comic Cons were kind of the answer to that, because you do Comic Cons, you find new audience members that may have never found your stuff. So now that Comic Cons are not here right now, it's a little bit harder to continue that momentum. But I think Kickstarter backers, they kind of understand you're not doing it month to month. So your old Kickstarter backers, if you launch 6 months later, a year later, they're going to still back up your book and still get really excited for your book. So I don't quite worry on that. I think it's more of the marketing strategy of how do you market to new readers and how do you market to your old readers when you do launch the Kickstarter. And for me, it's just to make every issue exciting. This happens in this issue. If you've been reading, Casey is now stepping into our hero shoes. It's kind of like the monthly solicits you usually get for comics. What makes that issue in particular exciting, I try to do for indie comics. And it is very important in the writing process to make every issue important and exciting, because you need to do that for Kickstarter. So yeah, it's that balancing act of like, how do you make this new reader friendly, or at least make this Kickstarter new reader friendly, which honestly, a lot of the backers for this time have been a lot of digital catch-ups and physical catch-ups, which is great because that's one of the higher tiers. And it's cool that people want to catch up on the whole series. And I guess I'm doing my job right if they want to catch up on all 7 instead of just picking up issue 7. Although I'm getting more of issue 7 too for the old backers.
Right. Absolutely, and that is one of the nice things about Kickstarter, which as a lot of comic shops have sort of gone away from keeping extensive back issues and things like that. It can be problematic to just to see that after each issue your order numbers go down, 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 down. What's nice about that I've seen a lot happen on Kickstarter for creators that are serializing is actually Kickstarter launches often rise in terms of backer count and total funding the longer your series is serialized, because you're able to go and sell those past issues. You keep those back issues in front in stock. You keep selling the digital catch ups, as you said, and so that is another nice benefit that is accrued to Kickstarter creators.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the comic book store and say, "Where's issue 3?" Which I see so many times when people are trying to catch up with their books, and the store saying, "We don't have it," and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, damn! Well, how am I going to read that issue? I guess I'll read it digitally or
Yeah,
whatever."
you've got 1, 2, and 3, but no, or you're missing 3, but you've got everything else. Well, oftentimes it's okay. I'll get none of them then
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we're
Yeah.
completists, and that's loss of a sale. So one of the things that in my Comics Launch Pro community, we've been talking a little bit about premium rewards and higher tier rewards and what works for there. I noticed one of your premium tier rewards is sort of behind the scenes access, and I'm just curious, what do you have in mind for that? And it's sort of it is an interesting way to add value to backers, but it's not necessarily extra physical stuff. What's your thinking behind that?
So for that, it's yeah, going back to, you don't want to be too costly with your premium stuff either. But I really, depending on who backs him, this is gonna be the same one for 250. I'd ask directly to my backer saying, what would you like to see? Like, I have my scripts, I have all these thumbnails. You could ask me questions about making a comic. I want it to be personal to each backer. So I'm going to directly talk to those backers and say, out of the behind the scenes, this is all I have available. But there's anything you want to know about the behind the scenes of making a comic, here it is. I want to make it personal. And the same thing for the issue 8, I think it's $250 tier, where it's like, get spoilers of issue 8. You might just want to see like some pages, and I definitely show some pages. I have like a cover already for that issue. So like, here's some pages, here's some of my script, but there's 2 big things that happen in that issue. I'd ask them, do you want to know what happens? Because I feel like if you're paying $250, you probably like are a big fan of the book and you want to know some teases and spoilers. So if they wanted to know, I'd tell them, and I'd be like, well, this is how I figured this out. And I want to make it personal to the backer. And I really want to make it special to the backer, and keep that communication.
Absolutely. So it's been a while since I've done this, but longtime Comics Launch listeners would remember that we've done. I've got a speed round that I ask creators, and so it's been a while since I've done it. But are you game for a quick speed round of quick
I
questions?
am. Yeah, sure.
All right, I've got 5 of them for you. Question number 1: finish this sentence. Kickstarter is blank.
Kickstarter is a great community of comic book creators.
Let's pretend the powers that be at Kickstarter are listening. If you could change one thing about the Kickstarter platform, what would it be?
The new add-ons, you have to go into the edit to go to your rewards to figure out who had add-ons. Let's make it easier to figure out who has add-ons on the dashboard.
Yeah, that's something that I've been noticing. We used add-ons for the first time for the campaign that I have running right now with Rich Dewick and Joe Mulvey for Wailing Blade, and I can see how many add-ons were purchased, but I have no idea which backers took them. I'm sure you could look at each backer and figure that out, but it definitely is not the easiest UI right now. I would also add to that images to go with those
I agree.
go with the add-ons, because it's hard to sell with just text. Question number 3: what's your secret weapon, meaning a tool, a resource, an app, etc., that you couldn't make comics without?
Ooh, couldn't make comics without. I actually use cell text for writing scripts. I know that's not everyone's go-to, but that's my secret weapon.
Okay. Fulfillment is an area that often trips up Kickstarter creators. Do you have a fulfillment tip for the listeners?
I would say have a schedule. So make sure you know when things are going to be done. And if you get stuff done early on, do it. And then actually, like getting stuff into boxes, have people help you. Don't do it by yourself.
Absolutely. And finally, can you recommend? I'm sure you do. Well, you do this every week, so this might actually be hard. But can you recommend one comic or book not done by yourself that you believe that more people need to check out?
I'm going to say Red Mother. This is from Boom Studios. It's just perfect horror. The pacing is so good for that book. And I've been trying to get more people to read it. So Red Mother.
Red Mother. All right. I have not had that one recommended to me yet, but I will check it out. Well, awesome, Kat. I mean, this has been a fun conversation. I'd love to hear, there is a piece of advice that goes around a little bit for indie comic creators that some people say, don't bother with superheroes. Do something other than superheroes. Marvel and DC have that done. But obviously, you're 7 issues deep, plans going forward. What advice do you have for indie creators that don't want to listen to that advice and are determined to make a superhero book, but actually want it to succeed on Kickstarter and elsewhere?
Have a hook. I think I see a lot of superhero books who just want to make a superhero and they're just kind of like any other superhero.
Yeah.
Figure out what makes your hero different from Marvel or DC, or your story different from Marvel or DC. For mine, it was making this more of a drama. So it's more about the characters. And yes, they deal with superhero stuff, but that's kind of like the background. It's more about the character drama. And Dad left to be a superhero, so that's kind of the hook there. So yeah, find your hook.
Great advice. So 2020 obviously has been a rough year. What has you most excited creatively going into the new year?
I hope Comic Cons, but we can't have an answer for that. Creatively, I have a few projects I'm working on. One that I announced here was the crossover I'm doing with Haunting. I'm super excited for that. Other books I'm working on. So just getting more stuff out there. Very excited for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Like Father, Like Daughter is live on Kickstarter right now. It'll be live for 21 days after this recording, and will still be live when folks on the Comics Launch podcast listen to this. Besides the Kickstarter, what's the best place for listeners to connect with you?
At Comic Uno on Twitter is probably where I'm most active. I'm also on Facebook, Comic Uno. You could probably find me on my regular Facebook too, Kat Calamia. My YouTube channel, Comic Uno. But yeah, Twitter is pretty much where I have all my stuff. If you need to find me in one place, at Comic Uno.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, Kat, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this launch wraps up for you, and excited to hear that there's plenty more coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. And thanks everyone for watching this live stream. And we look forward to seeing what